The Liberty drifted in the purple clouds of the nebula, surrounded by the wreckage of what had been 3 Vorthic warships. But Jake Morrison knew the battle was not over. Wounded predators were often the most dangerous, and he had only wounded his enemies, not killed them. "Report," he said to his bridge crew. Lisa Park checked her screens. "The Shadow Strike is dead in space, no power signatures. The Iron Maw has partial power but no weapons. The Bloodclaw still has life support and some systems running. Survivors? Definitely. On the Bloodclaw and probably on the Iron Maw, unknown numbers." Jake nodded grimly. Zektar was still alive, and that meant trouble. The Vorthic commander would not give up after being humiliated by what he considered a lesser species. Pride would drive him to desperate actions. "Denny, what are they saying on their radio?" Danny Rogers listened to the alien communications with growing concern. "Captain, they are calling for help. There are more Vorthak ships in this sector. Maybe a day or 2 away. How many more? At least 6 ships. A full raiding fleet." The news hit the bridge like a physical blow. The Liberty had barely survived fighting 3 ships. Against 9 or 10, they would have no chance at all. "Captain," Ryan Hayes called from engineering, "we cannot run. The engine modifications burned out half our power systems. We have maybe 6 hours of full power left before everything shuts down." Jake looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the damaged alien ships. A plan began to form in his mind, but it was not the kind of plan any sane person would consider. "Lisa, what did you study about Wolfpack hunting tactics at the academy?" She looked confused by the sudden change of topic. "Wolves isolate their prey and attack from multiple directions. They wear down large animals that are stronger than any individual Wolf." "Exactly. But what happens when the prey fights back and hurts the pack? The wolves become more cautious. They look for weakness and strike when the prey is tired or distracted." Jake smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "We are going to become the wolves." Over the next hour, Jake explained his plan to the senior staff. It was audacious, dangerous, and probably suicidal. It was also the only chance they had. The Liberty would not run or hide. Instead, it would hunt the damaged Vorthak ships one by one, using the nebula as cover. They would strike without warning, disappear into the cosmic dust, and strike again from a different direction. "This is insane," Dr. Foster said when she heard the plan. "We should be trying to escape, not starting another fight." "Amanda, we cannot escape," Jake replied patiently. "Our engines are too damaged for a long journey. More Vorthak ships are coming. Our only choice is to eliminate the current threat before reinforcements arrive." Ryan Hayes was already working on modifications for the new strategy. He stripped weapons from the destroyed sections of the ship and mounted them on the remaining hull. The Liberty would become a mobile weapons platform designed for hit-and-run attacks. Karen Webb programmed the ship's computer to analyze Vorthak damage patterns and predict where the alien ships were most vulnerable. The AI began planning attack routes through the nebula that would keep the Liberty hidden between strikes. "The computer calculates that we can remain undetected for up to 4 hours if we stay in the densest gas clouds," she reported. "But our sensors will be limited too." "That works in our favor," Jake said. "We know this nebula better than they do. We have been mapping it for days." The first target was the Iron Maw. The crippled ship was trying to restore its weapons and engines, but it was isolated from the other 2 vessels. Jake planned to destroy it before it could become dangerous again. The Liberty moved through the purple gas like a ghost ship. Its hull was blackened and scarred from the previous battle, making it even harder to detect against the nebula background. The crew moved quietly through the corridors, their enhanced senses alert for any sign of danger. Danny Rogers used passive sensors to track the Iron Maw's position. The alien ship was broadcasting repair status reports to its companions, not realizing that the humans could intercept and decode their communications. "Target acquired," Lisa Park whispered from the weapons station. "Range 2,000 meters and closing." The Liberty emerged from a gas cloud directly behind the damaged Vorthak ship. At this range, the aliens had no time to react before the human weapons opened fire, but this attack was different from the first battle. Jake did not want to destroy the Iron Maw quickly. He wanted to make it suffer, to send a message to the surviving aliens that they were now the hunted ones. The Liberty's weapons targeted non-vital systems first. Engine pods were crippled but not destroyed. Weapon mounts were damaged but left partially functional. The alien crew was left alive but helpless, drifting wounded in space. "Why are we not finishing them off?" Lisa asked. "Because fear is a weapon." "Two," Jake replied. "The other ships will waste time and resources trying to rescue their friends. It will make them predictable." The Liberty vanished back into the nebula before the other Vorthik ships could respond. Jake's prediction proved correct. Both the Bloodclaw and the Shadow Strike immediately changed course to help the Iron Maw, leaving their own defensive positions. Over the next several hours, the Liberty became a nightmare that stalked the aliens through the cosmic fog. It would appear without warning, strike at exposed systems, and disappear before return fire could be effective. The human ship hit the Shadow Strike's communication array, leaving it unable to coordinate with its companions. It destroyed the Bloodclaw's main sensors, forcing the aliens to rely on short-range instruments. Each attack was precisely planned to cause maximum psychological damage. Dr. Foster monitored the crew's condition as the combat drugs began to wear off. The enhanced reflexes and coordination were fading, but something else was taking their place. The humans were developing an almost supernatural ability to work together. "It is like they are reading each other's minds," she reported to Jake. "The crew is moving and thinking as a single unit." "Combat stress can do that," Jake replied. "When people fight together against impossible odds, they sometimes transcend their normal limitations." The truth was more complex. The Liberty's crew had been changed by their first battle. They had discovered that humans could become something more than individuals when survival was at stake. The ship itself seemed to be alive, responding to their collective will. Ryan Hayes made repairs with tools and parts that should not have worked together. His modifications defied engineering principles but somehow functioned perfectly. The ship's systems adapted to damage in ways that the designers never intended. Karen Webb found that the ship's computer was learning and evolving. It began predicting alien movements with uncanny accuracy. The AI seemed to understand human tactics better than its own programming. Danny Rogers discovered he could interpret Vorthik communications almost intuitively. The alien language made sense to him in ways that pure translation could not explain. He began to understand how the enemy thought and planned. The psychological warfare was working. Intercepted alien communications showed growing panic among the Vorthik crews. They were used to hunting frightened prey, not being stalked by an enemy that seemed to know their every move. "The humans are like demons," one alien transmission said. "They appear from nowhere and vanish like ghosts. How can we fight an enemy we cannot see?" Commander Zektar's voice could be heard trying to rally his remaining forces. "They are only one small ship. We still outnumber them. Stay in formation and sweep the nebula systematically." But Jake had anticipated this response. The Liberty's next attack came from directly above the Vorthek formation, dropping out of a gas cloud like a striking hawk. It hit all three ships simultaneously with long-range weapons before disappearing again. The aliens tried to pursue, but their damaged ships were too slow and their sensors too limited. They found themselves chasing shadows while the real threat circled around behind them. "Captain," Lisa reported, "the enemy ships are starting to cluster together for mutual protection." "They are scared." "Good," Jake said. "Scared enemies make mistakes." "Danny, what is their current status?" "The Iron Maw is barely functional, life support only. The Shadow Strike has some weapons but no communication or long-range sensors. The Bloodclaw is the most dangerous, but its main guns are damaged." Jake studied the tactical display. The three Vorthek ships were now grouped together in a defensive formation, exactly where he wanted them. It was time for the final phase of his plan. "All hands, prepare for attack pattern Omega," he announced over the ship's communication system. The crew moved to their positions with grim determination. They knew this would be their last battle, win or lose. The Liberty could not survive much longer. And the Vorthic reinforcements were getting closer, but they had proven something important in the past few hours. Humans were not weak prey to be hunted and captured. When cornered and fighting for survival, they became apex predators that even the Vorthak feared. The final confrontation was about to begin. They found the ship empty except for a single message displayed on every screen in several languages, including their own. This is what happens when you hunt humans. Choose your next move carefully. The human crew had used the Vorthak escape pods to reach safety in a distant system. They would eventually be rescued and returned to Earth with their incredible story. But the aliens who found the Liberty learned a lesson that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humans were not easy prey. They were something much more dangerous, a species that could adapt, improvise, and overcome any challenge when their survival was at stake. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Years later, when other alien species spoke of humans, they would remember the story of the Liberty. They would tell of a single exploration ship that faced impossible. The Liberty shot forward like an arrow from a bow. Jake Morrison had ordered maximum power to the engines, and Ryan Hayes delivered. The exploration ship accelerated toward the 3 Vorthak warships at a speed that should have killed everyone aboard. But Dr. Foster's combat drugs kept the crew conscious and alert despite the crushing force. Their enhanced bodies could handle what would normally be impossible. They moved and thought faster than any human had a right to. Commander Zektar stared at his screens in disbelief. The human ship was charging directly at his formation. This was not how prey species behaved. They were supposed to run or surrender, not attack 3 larger ships. All ships, open fire, he commanded. Destroy the humans before they reach us. The 3 Vorthak ships unleashed their weapons. Energy beams and missile salvos filled space with deadly light, but Jake had planned for this. The Liberty twisted and spun through the attack like a dancer avoiding raindrops. Lisa Park coordinated the ship's desperate flight, her combat enhanced. Reflexes let her predict where the enemy shots would go and steer the ship away from danger. The Liberty flew in patterns that no military manual would teach, but which kept them alive for precious seconds. Hull damage on decks 3 and 7, reported Bobby Martinez from Damage Control, but we are still in one piece. The Liberty reached the center of the Vorthik formation and Jake gave his next order. Ryan, activate the matter reclamation system. Full power. In the engine room, Ryan Hayes pressed the control that would either save them or destroy them. The matter reclamation system had never been used as a weapon before. He had reversed its function to create destruction instead of recycling. The cargo bay doors exploded open. A stream of superheated metal fragments shot out like dragon's breath. The particles were moving at incredible speed and temperature. They hit the Shadow Strike's hull and began cutting through the armor. Like it was made of paper, the alien ship shuddered as the cutting beam sliced into its vital systems. Explosions bloomed along its hull as power conduits were severed. The Shadow Strike's weapons went silent as its crew fought to control the damage. Impossible, Zektar growled. How can a mining tool cut through military armor? But humans had taken a system meant for gentle recycling and turned it into a weapon of terrible power. The Liberty continued its attack run, spraying metal death at point-blank range. Karen Webb's computer calculations proved correct. At this close distance, the Vorthak heavy weapons could not track the small, fast-moving human ship. Their guns were built to fight other warships at long range, not to swat an enemy that was almost touching their hull. Danny Rogers used the communications array to jam the alien radio signals. The 3 Vorthak ships could not coordinate their attacks properly. They were forced to fight as individuals instead of working together. The Ironmaw tried to ram the Liberty, but Lisa Park saw it coming. She spun the ship around the alien vessels. Bulk and opened fire with everything they had. The modified industrial fabricators launched metal slugs at railgun speeds. The enhanced laser arrays burned through armor plating. Dr. Foster's stimulants let the human crew work together with perfect timing. They anticipated each other's actions and moved like parts of a single machine. The Liberty fought with a coordination that seemed almost telepathic. Target their engine section, Jake ordered. Cripple them. The Liberty's improvised weapons focused on the Iron Maw's rear hull. Explosions rippled along the alien ship's engine pods. The Vorthak vessel began to drift as its propulsion systems failed, but the human ship was taking damage too. The Liberty's hull was scored with energy burns and punctured by missile fragments. Systems were failing throughout the ship as the jury-rigged modifications pushed beyond their limits. "Captain," Ryan called from engineering, "the matter reclamation system is burning out. We have maybe one more shot." "Save it," Jake replied. "We are not done yet." The Shadow Strike was still fighting despite its wounds. Its crew had managed to restore some weapon systems and was firing desperately at the Liberty, but the alien gunners were panicking. They had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Jake turned his attention to the Bloodclaw Zektar-S flagship. It was the largest and most dangerous of the three ships. Its weapons were already charging for another attack. "Lisa, take us around to their blind spot," Jake ordered. "Which blind spot, Captain? They are covering all approaches." "The one we are going to create." Jake had noticed something during the battle. The Vorthak ships fought like they were still. At long range, even in close combat. They tried to bring their heavy guns to bear instead of using smaller, faster weapons. "Danny, can you hack their targeting systems?" "I am trying, Captain, but their computer security is very strong." "You do not need to hack them. Just confuse them." Danny understood immediately. He began broadcasting false sensor readings and navigation data on the frequencies the Vorthak used for targeting. The alien gunners suddenly found their computers. Showing the Liberty in 6 different places at once, the Liberty darted between the confused shots and closed with the Bloodclaw. Jake waited until they were so close he could see the alien faces through the command deck windows. Then he gave the order. "All weapons fire at will. Hit them with everything." The Liberty unleashed its full arsenal at point-blank range. Laser beams burned through armor. Metal slugs punched holes in the hull. Explosive charges detonated against weapon ports. Even the modified waste disposal system fired garbage at the enemy with lethal force. The maintenance drones, loaded with explosives, swarmed over the Bloodclaw's hull like angry insects. They found sensor arrays and weapon mounts and destroyed them with suicide attacks. Each small explosion weakened the alien ship's ability to fight back. Zektar felt his ship shuddering under the human assault. This was not how battles were supposed to work. The prey was supposed to be weak and afraid. Instead, these humans fought with a savage creativity that defied all logic. "Boarding teams to the launch bays," he ordered. "We will take their ship by force," but Jake had planned for this too. As the Vorthak boarding pods approached the Liberty, Lisa Park triggered the explosive bolts on the outer hull plating. Sheets of metal flew off the ship like giant throwing knives, smashing into the boarding craft and destroying them. "Captain," Amanda Foster reported from the medical bay, "we have 17 wounded but no fatalities yet. The combat drugs are working. Keep them fighting, Doctor." The battle continued to rage at impossible close range. The Liberty twisted around the larger alien ships like a fighter plane attacking bombers. Its small size and desperate maneuvers kept it alive as the improvised weapons took their toll on the enemy. The Shadow Strike was the first to break. Its damage control teams could not keep up with the destruction. Internal explosions tore through the ship as its power systems overloaded. The alien vessel began to list and drift, no longer able to fight. The Iron Maw was crippled but still dangerous. Its remaining weapons continued to fire at the Liberty, scoring hits that sent the human crew scrambling to repair damage. "Hull breach on Deck 5, Bobby Martinez reported. "Sealing emergency bulkheads." "Weapons Array 3 is down," added Chief Stevens, switching to backup systems. The Liberty was being torn apart, but it was taking its enemies with it. The human crew fought on despite wounds and exhaustion. Driven by the knowledge that surrender meant slavery or death. Jake looked at the tactical display and made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The Bloodclaw was wounded, but still fighting. The Iron Maw was crippled but not dead. The Shadow Strike was drifting but might be repairable. Ryan, prepare the matter reclamation system for one final shot, he ordered. Captain, if we use it again, the system will explode. It could take out half our ship, then we better make it count. Jake targeted the Bloodclaw's command section where Zektar waited. The alien commander had underestimated human determination, and now he would pay the price. Fire, Jake whispered. The matter reclamation system unleashed its last breath of superheated destruction. The cutting beam sliced into the Bloodclaw's bridge and carved through its vital systems. Explosions rippled through the alien flagship as its command. Structure collapsed. The system burned out exactly as Ryan had predicted, taking a section of the Liberty's hull with it. But the damage was done. Commander Zektar's ship was crippled. And drifting in the sudden quiet after the explosion, Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was battered and bleeding, but they were alive. Outside, 3 Vorthic warships floated dead or dying in space. Status report, he said quietly. 2 enemy ships disabled, 1 destroyed, Lisa reported. We have heavy damage, but the ship is still functional. Jake nodded. The Liberty had fought like a cornered animal and won, but he knew this was not over. The wounded aliens would not give up easily, and his ship could not survive another battle like this one. The real test was yet to come? The Liberty became a different ship in the next few hours. Jake Morrison had given his crew an impossible task, but they attacked it with human determination. Each department began changing their equipment in ways that would make any sane engineer scream. Ryan Hayes worked in the engine room like a man possessed. He pulled power cables from life support systems and rerouted them to the weapon arrays. The ship's basic defensive lasers were meant to destroy small rocks. Now they would get 10 times more power than they were designed to handle. This will burn out the systems after a few shots, he told his assistant engineer, Bobby Martinez. How many shots do you think we will get? Bobby asked. Hopefully enough, Ryan said. He was already working on his next modification. The ships. Industrial fabricators were used to make spare parts and tools. Ryan programmed them to create metal slugs and explosive charges. If they were going to die, they would make it expensive for the aliens. Dr. Amanda Foster had never imagined using her medical knowledge for war. She mixed chemicals from her supplies to create combat drugs. The stimulants would help the crew react faster and stay awake longer. The painkillers would let wounded people keep fighting. This is dangerous, she told herself as she worked. These drugs could kill them. But she knew the aliens would definitely kill them if they did nothing. She prepared syringes for every crew member and hoped she was making the right choice. Lisa Park coordinated the ship's transformation. She had studied military tactics at the academy but never expected to use them. Now she planned how to fight 3 ships with 1. It seemed impossible, but humans had done impossible things before. She worked with the maintenance teams to strip metal plating from inside the ship. They welded it to the outside of the hull as extra armor. It would not stop heavy weapons, but it might deflect smaller shots. Every bit of protection could mean the difference between life and death. Danny Rogers listened to the Vorthic radio signals. The aliens spoke freely because they thought the humans could not understand their language. Danny's computer slowly translated their words. They call us soft shells, he reported to Jake. They think we will break easily when they board us. What else? Jake asked. They are arguing about which humans will make the best slaves. The younger crew members are worth more money. Jake's face turned hard. Keep listening. I want to know everything about their ships and plans. Karen Webb worked with the ship's artificial intelligence. The computer was designed to analyze star systems and planets. Now she programmed it to study enemy ships and find weaknesses. The AI began modeling attack patterns and defensive strategies. Captain, Karen said, the computer has found something interesting. Their ships have heavy armor in front but lighter. Protection on the sides and back. Like most military ships, Jake replied. They expect to fight enemies who attack from the front. Yes, but they have another weakness. Their weapon systems are designed for long-range combat. If we get close enough, they cannot target us properly. Jake nodded. How close is close enough? Less than 500 meters. But Captain, getting that close to 3 warships would be suicide. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe it is the only way to survive. Throughout the ship, the crew worked with desperate creativity. The cargo bay doors were reinforced and fitted with explosive bolts. If opened at the right moment, they could release clouds of metal fragments like a giant shotgun blast. The navigation sensors were modified to work as targeting systems. The communications array was turned into a jamming device. Even the waste disposal system was converted into a weapon that could fire garbage at high speed. Maintenance drones were loaded with explosives and programmed to attack enemy ships. The ship's welding equipment was modified to work as close-range weapons. Nothing was too small or unimportant to be considered as a tool of war. Jake walked through the ship and watched his crew work. These were scientists and explorers, not soldiers. But they were human, and humans had a gift for adapting to impossible situations. "Captain," Ryan called out from where he was working on a power coupling, "I have an idea for our biggest weapon." "Tell me." "The matter reclamation system? We use it to break down space junk and recycle it into useful materials." "But what if we reverse the process?" Jake was interested. "Go on. Instead of breaking things down, we could use it to create a stream of superheated metal fragments, like a giant cutting torch that could slice through their hull armor." "How close would we need to be?" "Very close. Maybe 200 meters. And we could only use it once before the system burns out." "Do it," Jake ordered. As the hours passed, the Liberty changed from an exploration ship into something new. It was not a proper warship. It was something more dangerous, a desperate human creation. Built from spare parts and determination. Dr. Foster gave combat drugs to volunteers from the crew. The stimulants made them faster and more alert. Their eyes became bright and focused. They moved with precise coordination that seemed almost supernatural. "How do you feel?" she asked Chief Petty Officer Mike Stevens after giving him the injection. "Like I could take apart a ship with my bare hands," he replied. His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with controlled energy. Lisa Park drilled the crew on emergency procedures. They practiced moving through the ship quickly and efficiently. Everyone learned to use weapons and emergency equipment. The ship became like one large organism with 43 parts working together. Danny Rogers intercepted more alien communications. "Captain, they are getting impatient. Commander Zektar wants to start the boarding action early." "How much time do we have left?" Jake asked. 3 hours until the deadline." "That is enough," Jake said. "Karen, are all systems ready?" "Yes, Captain. The computer has calculated our best attack pattern. But the chances of success are very low." "How low?" "Less than 12%. Jake smiled grimly. "Better than 0%. "Ryan, what is the status of our modifications?" "All weapons are ready, Captain. The ship will not survive a long battle, but we can hit them hard in the first attack." "Good. Amanda, are the crew ready for combat?" "As ready as I can make them, Captain. The combat drugs will help, but people will still get hurt or killed." "I know," Jake said quietly. "But if we do nothing, we all die anyway." The final hour came quickly. The crew took their positions throughout the ship. Jake stood on the bridge, looking at the 3 alien ships on his screen. They waited like vultures around a dying animal. "Captain," Lisa said, "all stations report ready." "Danny, open a channel to the Vorthak commander." The harsh alien voice came through the speakers. "Your time is up, human. Prepare to be boarded." "Commander Zektar," Jake replied, "I have a message for you. Speak quickly." Jake looked around. The bridge at his crew, they were scared but determined. They trusted him to lead them through this impossible situation. "The message is this," Jake said into the radio. "You picked the wrong ship to hunt?" Before Zektar could reply, Jake gave the order that would change everything. "All stations, execute attack pattern Alpha. Take us in." The 3 damaged Vorthak ships huddled together in the center of the nebula like wounded animals seeking protection in numbers. Commander Zektar knew his situation was desperate. Half his crews were dead or injured, his ships were crippled. And somewhere in the purple fog, the human vessels stalked them like a predator. Jake Morrison studied the enemy formation from the bridge of the Liberty. His ship was dying around him. Systems failed every few minutes as the jury-rigged modifications finally gave up. Hull breaches had been sealed with whatever materials the crew could find. The air itself tasted of smoke and ozone. "Status report," he said quietly. Lisa Park checked her instruments. "We have maybe 2 hours of life support left. Weapons are down to 30% capacity. The engines will fail within the hour." "And the enemy?" "Still grouped together. They are trying to repair their ships, but progress is slow. The Iron Maw is almost dead. The Shadow Strike has restored some systems. The Blood Claw is still the most dangerous." Jake nodded. Time was running out for both sides, but the Vorthic reinforcements would arrive first. This had to end now, one way or another. "Danny, open a channel to Commander Zektar." "Channel open, Captain." Jake's voice carried across space to the alien commander. "Zektar, this is Captain Morrison. I have an offer for you." The harsh alien voice replied after a moment. "What offer could you possibly make, human?" "You are one damaged ship against 3. Surrender now, and I will let your crews live," Jake said calmly. "Continue fighting, and I will destroy all of you." Zektar's laughter sounded like breaking glass. "You are insane. Your ship is falling apart. We have detected your system failures. In 1 hour, you will be drifting dead in space." "Maybe, Jake." "Agreed, but you will not live to see it." There was silence from the alien ships. Then Zektar spoke again, his voice filled with rage and disbelief. "You are bluffing. No single ship can defeat 3 warships, even damaged ones." "I already did it once," Jake reminded him. "The only question is whether your crews die with you or live to see another day." But Zektar's pride would not let him surrender to what he still considered a lesser species. "We will never yield to soft-shell scavengers. All ships, prepare. For final assault, we end this now." Jake sighed and closed the channel. He had given the aliens a chance to survive, but they had chosen death instead. Now he would give it to them. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's intercom. "We are going to make our final attack. I want every one of you to know that you have fought with honor and courage. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, remember that we chose to fight rather than surrender to slavery." Around the ship, the crew prepared for what they all knew would be their last battle. Dr. Foster distributed the remaining combat drugs, knowing they would either help the crew survive or make their deaths quicker. Ryan Hayes overloaded every system he could find, preparing to burn out the ship's remaining power in one massive burst. Karen Webb uploaded the ship's complete database to a secure transmission that would eventually reach Earth if they died. Here, at least humanity would know what happened and learn from their sacrifice. "Captain," Lisa said, "all stations report ready." Jake looked at the tactical display one final time. 3 enemy ships waited in defensive formation. His own vessel was barely holding together. The smart thing would be to try running and hope. The engines lasted long enough to reach help, but Jake Morrison was not feeling smart. He was feeling human, and humans did not run when their friends and families were threatened. "Attack pattern Omega," he ordered. "Take us in." The Liberty shot out of the nebula clouds like a missile fired from the heart of a star. Every remaining system was pushed beyond its limits as the human ship accelerated toward its enemies. This was not the careful approach of their earlier attacks. This was a desperate charge that would end in victory or death. The Vortex ships opened fire immediately, but their damaged targeting systems could not track the Liberty's erratic course. Jake had learned from their previous battles. He flew the ship in patterns that seemed random but were actually calculated to avoid the enemy weapons. At 500 meters, the Liberty opened fire with everything it had left. Laser beams carved through alien armor. Metal slugs punched holes in enemy hulls. Explosive charges detonated against weapon ports and sensor arrays, but the real surprise came when Jake activated Ryan's final modification. The ship's entire hull had been turned into one massive electromagnetic pulse generator. When it fired, every electronic system on the three Vorthic ships died instantly. The aliens found themselves floating blind and helpless as their computers crashed and their weapons went silent. Emergency lighting flickered on in their corridors, but their ships were effectively dead. Now, Jake whispered. The Liberty deployed its last surprise. A swarm of maintenance drones that had been converted into boarding craft. Each drone carried a small team of humans armed with tools and weapons salvaged from the ship. They would take the alien vessels from the inside. Lisa Park led the boarding team that attacked the Bloodclaw. She and 12 other crew members cut through the alien hull and fought their way toward the command center. The Vorthic warriors they met were tough and dangerous, but they had never faced humans enhanced with combat drugs and fighting for their lives. The battle inside the ships was brutal and personal. Humans with welding torches fought aliens with energy weapons in narrow corridors. Dr. Foster's stimulants let the boarding teams move faster than their enemies could react. They fought with tools and improvised weapons, turning every piece of equipment into something deadly. On the Shadow Strike, Chief Petty Officer Mike Stevens and his team disabled the ship's life support systems. The alien crew was forced to choose between fighting the humans or trying to repair their air recycling before they suffocated. The Iron Maw was boarded by Bobby Martinez and the engineering team. They knew exactly which systems to target to cripple the ship permanently. Within minutes, the alien vessel was nothing more than a floating tomb, but the real battle was happening on the Bloodclaw, where Lisa Park faced Commander Zektar himself. The alien commander was larger and stronger than any human, with natural weapons that could tear a person apart. But Lisa had something he did not understand: the desperate fury of a human protecting her family. The fight was over in seconds. Zektar lunged at Lisa with claws extended, expecting to kill her easily. Instead, she ducked under his attack and drove a plasma torch into his chest. The alien commander died with a look of complete shock on his face. All boarding teams report. Jake called over the radio. Bloodclaw secured, Captain. Enemy commander is dead. Shadow Strike secured. Alien crew has surrendered. Iron Maw secured. No survivors. Jake felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion wash over him. It was over. They had won against impossible odds, but the cost had been terrible. The Liberty was dying around them, and several crew members had been killed or wounded in the boarding actions. Captain, Danny Rogers called urgently from his station, I am detecting new ships approaching. The Vorthak reinforcements will be here in 6 hours. Can we repair the engines in time to escape? Ryan Hayes shook his head. No, Captain. We used up everything we had in that last attack. The ship is finished. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he smiled, and this time it was a real smile, not the grim expression he had worn during the battles. Danny, prepare a message for transmission to Earth, full power, all frequencies. I want to make sure this gets through. What should the message say, Captain? Jake looked around his bridge at the crew that had fought so bravely. They had proven something important today. Humans were not the weak, dependent species that the aliens believed them to be. When threatened, they could become something far more dangerous. Tell them we encountered hostile aliens in the Kepler Nebula. Tell them we were outnumbered 3-1 but fought back and won. Tell them that humanity is not prey for anyone who wants to hunt us. He paused, then continued, and tell them to send ships, fast ships with heavy weapons, because word of this battle will spread and other aliens will come looking for us. When they do, we need to be ready. The message was transmitted with the last of the Liberty's power. It would take months to reach Earth, but when it did, everything would change. Humanity would know that they were not alone in the universe, and that some of their neighbors were hostile. 6 hours later, the Vorthak reinforcements arrived to find 3 of their ships captured or destroyed and a human vessel dead in space. The aliens boarded the Liberty carefully, expecting traps and ambushes. They found the ship empty except for a single message displayed on every screen in several languages, including their own. This is what happens when you hunt humans. Choose your next move carefully. The human crew had used the Vorthak escape. pods to reach safety in a distant system. They would eventually be rescued and returned to Earth with their incredible story. But the aliens who found the Liberty learned a lesson that would spread throughout the galaxy. Humans were not easy prey. They were something much more dangerous, a species that could adapt, improvise, and overcome any challenge when their survival was at stake. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Years later, when other alien species spoke of humans, they would remember the story of the Liberty. They would tell of a single exploration ship that faced impossible